Welcome to Lisbon, a city near the ocean, a city always open to the ocean, a city that this week is gathering people from all around the world to defend and promote the ocean. Welcome to you that are here in this room, and also welcome to everyone who is following us online, even if you are early in the morning or late in the evening. Welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here to this event, the Oceania Talanoa, an event that is promoted by several Catholic associations and movements and entities that gather to represent at the conference the indigenous and faith communities of the Oceania. Thank you to be here.
We would like also to stress that this event is the result of the cooperation of different institutions in Portugal that helped all the organizing commission. And we would like to thank to Colégio Pedro Rube that let us use their venue for this event. Also, we would like to thank to Society of Jesus in Portugal, Rede Cuidar da Casa Comum, Fundação Gonçalves Silveira, for all the help that they gave to the organizing institutions with the promotion and organizing this event. We all know we are going to proceed with our program, with the prayer. We would like also to remind that this event is being broadcasted, live broadcast with the simultaneous translation to Portuguese, and it's being also recorded. We have now a prayer that is a pre-recorded prayer from Lucy Butch. She's from Tonga. She's a young poet who holds in her heart the spirit of Moana. We really hope that this can help you and all of us to deeply and going deep with our reflection on the ocean and our relation with the ocean. And thank you all for being here. Muito obrigado.
Okutau fuhumai yoseni.
Okutau fuhumai yoseni. Pea okutau fuhui etau melino. We fight for our oceans, and we fight for our peace. The sea is our pride, and she roars like a beast. Do you quake? I can murder Metropolis and create storms instead. There is a choice to make under the black sun. And the deep, dark blue lies a kelp forest glinting, gold. The old ways must not be forgotten, but merged, past, present, and future calls. Fish farms are sacred and protected sites. Bush regeneration and mangrove seawalls. The sea, she whispers sometimes, in the spitting foam like a siren's call. We must protect our ocean's nature. Hush, hush, she whispers, soothing our tears and bathing us clean. And perhaps to heed her call is ingratitude rather than severance. We must return our eyes to the mirror in the sky.
Thank you, dear sister poet from Oceania, for welcoming us in prayer to our time together today. My name is Amy Echeverria. I'm a Colombian missionary from the United States. It's a pleasure to be with you. Today we're hosting a very special session, an Ocean Talanoa, which is a special way of communicating in the Pacific. Tala means to speak. Noa means to listen. And so in this forum today, the Talanoa, we're inviting all of us to share what we hold in our hearts and to listen to what we hold in our hearts. This is the second day of a major conference at the Alta Sharina, the UN Oceans Conference, the second in a series of conferences that is taking special care to explore the issues, the concerns affecting our oceans and ocean communities around the world. And our special delegation, largely from Oceania, but also from Africa, Asia, the United States, and Europe, we're all here gathered, and we thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, this Oceania dialogue. Before we begin, I would like to say a few words of thanks to some of our delegation group that could not be with us here today. I'd like to acknowledge them. It's very important for us to acknowledge those that walk with us. So I'd like to acknowledge and thank Chriselle from the Institute of Environmental Science for Social Change, and also with Rowan, the Rivers Above Asia and Oceania Ecclesial Network. We'd like to thank and recognize Jackie Raymond, who's with Australia Catholic University, and the Vatican Ecology Task Force. A special word of thanks and acknowledgement to Cheryl of the Laudato Si movement in the Philippines. To our brother, Father Ras, Divine Word Missionary from Fiji, living in Australia. To Charles, with the Jesuit Center in India, working on ocean fisheries. We acknowledge you and thank you, Charles. To our Blair, our friend here in the audience, who is with a UN network of organizations, a network of organizations working at the UN in New York. Two other friends, Martin from New Zealand and Damien from from Australia, Caritas Oceania, and a dear guest that was supposed to be here but is not feeling well. She was going to join us in our circle, Losa. She's not feeling well, but she does send her warm regards. And so we thank her for coming and being here. I apologize if I've missed a thank you for some of our coordinating group, but know that we acknowledge you and thank you. And so with that, we'd like to open the conversation, this talanoa, this dialogue, this time of speaking and listening. And here we have three wonderful dialogue partners. We have Archbishop Peter Loy Chung of Fiji, the Archbishop of Fiji, Suva Diocese, and is also the president of the Federation of Catholic Bishops of Oceania. We also have Teresa Ardler, who is First Nations leader of Australia, Aboriginal leader and director of the Girawal Cultural Connection Center in Australia. Thank you, Teresa. And on the very end there, we have Pedro Walpole, Father Pedro Walpole, Jesuit and coordinator of the Rivers Above Asia and Rivers Above Asia and Oceania Ecclesial Network, along with many other hats that you wear. So thank you all for being a part of this conversation. And we'd like to begin with asking each of you a question. We're here because we care for the ocean. And certainly that that caring comes from having a relationship with the ocean. And so, our question for you today, right now, is what is your relationship with the ocean?
Thank you, Amy. And that's a very sensitive question that you are asking there, and you don't ask that in Fiji, because it means that I have to reveal my identity. And normally you don't ask people in Fiji that very straightforward, what's your identity, because it means naming your totem. And we like to keep that really rolled up in our sleeves and not tell anybody, because it's sacred. So normally, if we have a bowl of kava here, I will give you one big bowl to penalize you for asking that question. But so in Fiji, we have totems. The totems represent land, sea, and a little bit of the air. So there are totem trees, totem fish, and totem animals. So my maternal sea totem is the Fijian name is the yawa. It's the English name for that fish is the milk fish. Okay, so you don't ask me what the milk fish tastes like, because that's also a penalty. Or it might be a red card. That means you go out of the room. So people in Fiji are related to either land, ocean, river, through totems, mostly either a fish, an animal, or a tree. So that's first the relationship. But I was and growing up, I grew up along the riverside. So the river is important. We go to fish, small creeks. I remember going with my mother. We looked forward to that day when we go out with her nets to catch, whatever you can catch from the river, small rivers, shrimps, fish, eels, all that kind of thing. And then I lived with my grandmother when I went to school, primary school, and it's beside the ocean. And so living close to the river and to the ocean. So the ocean for us is like going to the supermarket or the fish market on Friday to get fish for Sunday meal. That's the thing that we did. We went out on a Saturday to catch fish, because you normally want to have a good Sunday meal. So the sea is like our fish market. Put it very plainly. Also, source. It's the source of food. One of our after school chores was going to collect seashell, small crabs for dinner in the evening. The sea is also entertainment. We go and swim. We go and paddle around with our bamboo raft. We created our own entertainment. That's the world that time. Big shift today is you are given an entertainment. You become a consumer of entertainment. We created our entertainment. So the ocean was a little bit like that. And then finally is transportation. Remember our parish priest in the early days, the road was not all around the island, so he has to travel by boat sometimes to get to the village. So that's very briefly, Amy, yes.
Thank you.
After this, one penalty for you.
I'm afraid to ask more questions, but thank you. Teresa, would you like to share with us your stories of relationship with the ocean?
Thank you. Yes, I've grown up on an Aboriginal fishing community situated in a beautiful national park, Buderi National Park, Jervis Bay. So we actually own our waters, our land, and our skies. And I don't like fishing, but I come from a long line of fishermen, and my people still fish the same way. They actually have some of the old fellas, my uncles, and that up on a sort of a ledge, and there's a fishing shack on the hill, and then the rest of the crew with the two boats, the fishing boats. So we still do this that we've been doing for many, many years, even before I was born. And they used to make their own fishing nets out of the different lamandra, and like we made our baskets and things like that. And also when they'd go out, so the person up on the hill at the fishing shack, they'd be blowing the whistle and going like this, and there'd be one person on the beach going across. And when it's two whistles, they go left. When it's three whistles, they go right. So to understand how to come around rowing the boats and to get as much fish as you can in the nets. So my uncles and the boys, my cousins and brothers, they do that every day, every morning. So we always have fresh fish. And I can tell when I go to a supermarket and that it's not fresh. So with this fishing community, to understand our way of life it's a whole many things that come into this equation, and that is that we also have 6 seasons, and we call them the Durable seasons, that comes down from Sydney down to the far south coast of New South Wales, so on the east coast of New South Wales. And a lot of Indigenous First Nations clans from Australia, we have 6 seasons, not 4 seasons. And my brother would probably know that. Different Indigenous people around the world, we have our own seasons that tell us how to manage our country and our home. And especially, growing up in a fishing community, we have to understand our seasons, so they tell us about what fish is actually running in our waters. So, for example, different parts of the year, around Easter time in April or late March, we have mullet that runs. So we know that that's what we have for Easter. But when our coastal wattle, a lot of our native plants are used not only for one thing, they're actually used for 2 things. And so the coastal wattle is very important to my people, even though it's bad for us if you got asthma. But most importantly is that my ancestors, the women, they used to be in canoes. They make stringy bark canoes. And in my language, they call them nui. And what they used to do, the women, they used to have a fire in the middle. And people say, well, why did they have a fire? And there's a reason why. And that reason was because the fire, they would actually fish just on dark. So the fire would draw the fish to the light. And this coastal wattle, what they used to do was when the fish came near the canoe, the nui, they'd sloosh around in the water this coastal wattle. And what it does, because it's so bad for asthma, it's actually they used to put it into the fish and it stunned them, so they couldn't move. They'd be just laying there on top of the water floating. So it was easy to get the fish and put them into the to the canoes instead of using a fishing line. So the women made the fishing shells and the hooks out of conch shells. So we still eat conchs. I don't know if you understand what they are, and pennywinkles, and they're quite beautiful, and abalone. And so we still have that sort of, we still use the coastal wattle today with the fishing. If we can't get all the fish in, so we stun them first, but it doesn't do any harm to them. But it's good for us because it's easier. Another thing is, when we bring our babies home from hospital, and they actually they're dunked in the water just like baptism. So because when we pass, they actually go back to. We believe that we go back to the ocean as our humpback whales, our gawaras or buraburi, to actually be in the ocean. And it's our salty tears that actually remind us that we did come from the ocean. And when we came from our humpback whales, we go back to the ocean. And it's our dreaming. We go back to the ocean to become, once again, our humpback whales, our totems. And they're very family orientated, just like us. They're run by the matriarch, and they pass on all the knowledge. And we still, what the beauty of it all is that we still hear our whales. Just before I left to come over here, they were singing the night before, and in our sheltered bay. So we still have that, and it's so I get a bit emotional. It's actually quite beautiful to still have that strong connection with the ocean, and I'm very proud. It's very much in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. From life to death and every season in between, the ocean is with you. Thank you. And Pedro, what would you like to share?
Thank you. That was beautiful. I grew up on the Pike River, actually a tributary of the Shannon, Ireland, a small island in the Atlantic. I've now lived for the last 40 years in the Philippines, in Mindanao, on the Pulangi River that flows out by Cotabato. And you're here today just by the ocean. We have to realize we are all connected. We all relate to the ocean. And think about that when you turn on your air conditioner. Because 90% of the excess heat in this atmosphere is absorbed by the ocean. In one sense, it's the biggest cooler. Yeah. We really have to give thanks to the ocean, not just because it's blue and it's out there. Yeah. And that air conditioner, if you like, is getting overheated. And no matter how much you turn up your air conditioner, yeah, you're actually competing with the ocean. So think about it. Yeah. We're really challenged to relate to the ocean. We are talking about an ocean as human beings. And we're talking particularly about 2.5 million human beings that live on 1/3 of the Earth's surface. And they are suffering. It's not that they're just vulnerable. It's not that just sometimes there might be a storm and we can go iffy as to whether that storm is scientifically proven to be the cause by climate change. That's not the way to feel. It may be the way we think. We have to change how we feel. Yeah, because we have 2.5 million people that are either having to leave their islands or drastically change their life. So we need an economy of justice, not an economy of economics. Oikos, economy and ecology have to be one. And that's what we're called to in today's world. This is why we're here, because there's great scientific and economic focus on the oceans. Yeah, those who are dealing with climate change, those who make a business out of the oceans, know we are threatened. Yeah, and we need new relationships. But unless consumers connect with that reality, we're sunk. Yeah, in hot water. Yeah. And the waters are growing in so many ways. We're not frogs sitting in the water. Many are jumping out because they know their survival depends upon going somewhere else. So we all must feel connected. And our connection is through our heart, not just through our pocket. If we don't feel it here, yeah, it doesn't matter how much, how little we have in our pocket. We're not going to change. The change, as we keep hearing from the youth today, must be now, not 30 years from now. We need a change now. And this is the integrity by which we have to work. We have to work connected to the ocean, connected as people, and connected as all sentient beings. Sorry, we are so selfish. We have to connect with other life and not just pass it by. Yeah, we are part of that life. We are not something bigger and better or more robust. We're in this, and it's only in the heart we can feel this. We cannot feel it in the pocket. And the heart needs to rule.
Thank you so much, Pedro, for bringing us to the heart space and connecting what we know and what we learn with what's in our hearts for the true conversion experience. Let's move to another topic. We're here at attending the UN conference on oceans. And we've been attending the sessions, the side events, and there's lots of information that's shared, lots of data, lots of policies, and we need those things. What is it that you want the delegates, the whole community here that's gathered for this conference? What is your message? If you were standing at the podium in the plenary, what is it that you would like to say to the world? Yep. For that question.
Well, I in one of those side events, I said this, and I want to say it again here, that, well, this speaker is from Gambia, and he was saying something like this. What I'm going to say is, I've said it many times before. I'm going to repeat myself, and we'll probably come back here saying the same thing year after year, because nothing has changed. And then he goes and says, "Why? Why are we repeating ourselves as if we say things but nothing happens?" And so he says that why? Because we are humans. We are not robots where you can just press a button and change happens. Human beings are more complicated than like a laptop. You can press the key and you see things move. But human beings, you can't say something today and it happens because it's got its own freedom to do things. And so he comes up with like a mixture, anthropological and a little bit psychology. Change was the thing, and so my question, and then this is I'd like to leave with the conference is what is the language that reaches the heart of people, and the heart brings about change, because because change it begins with the heart. If there is a language that can reach the heart, and then you can see change that will go up to your mind and behave. So my question to that to the presenter from Gambia is there room for other languages apart from the scientific and the academic language that this conference is loaded with? There is no place for spirituality. We talk about there are side events about a little bit of indigenous spirituality, but space was not given to the spiritual language or the symbolic language that we heard from that poetry, artistic language. See the impact of the drum and the guitar brought silence to this room. It brought a kind of mindedness. I spontaneously closed my eyes. So that's the power of symbolic artistic language to touch the heart. And so that's one. Pope Francis is heavy on this, that the ecological crisis is because there's a inner crisis. So that there has to be a language that reaches the heart, and that's the limitation of the scientific and the academic language. It reaches your head. The other thing that I'd like to tell the conference members, especially regarding deep sea mining, there is a lot of discussion in the conference about deep sea mining, as if deep sea mining is the only mining. There is mining from the top of the mountain to the trees, to the river, to the sand by the seashore, and now it's going to the deep sea. I'm just reminding our Fijian group, don't limit the conversation to deep sea mining, because there are already mining that's taking place, destroying the environment. Our Prime Minister got A+ because he's the first Prime Minister in the Oceania to put a moratorium on deep sea mining. But there are other mining that our government has allowed in Fiji. So that's another thing that I'd like to, and don't limit the conversation of mining to just deep sea mining. Yeah, I guess that's the main thing. Two things that I'd like to talk about: the spiritual language, which includes indigenous language, indigenous knowledge, the language for God. We are trying to repair the world, but there is no mention of who made the world. What's his, if you want to talk in terms of building, what's his architectural plan for the world? If we are to repair the world, normally if you want to repair a building, you need to see the plan. But over here, we're not making reference to any of God's plan. God is almost absent from this conference. What's God's plan? It's as if we created the world and then we can repair the world. So this language for God, the theology is missing. And then here I'd like to touch on what Pope Francis says: the root cause of the ecological crisis is two big words: anthropocentric paradigm and the techno-economic paradigm, the power of money. Money is a big player in this thing, and then the human person's greed for money. There's a lot of talk of romanticism, romanticizing the indigenous spirituality, but there's something that is a threat to indigenous knowledge and spirituality itself, and that's money. You put a fat envelope in front of a chief, he forgets his land. He'll grab the fat envelope. He's supposed to be the custodian of the land and the sea and the trees. Many chiefs will forget that, bring that envelope, and the few bottles of whiskey that follow after that. So that is what Pope Francis. We become self-centered, man-centered, human-centered, and that's the root cause of the crisis. So that's a few things that I'd like to go back tomorrow and tell the conference if they give me the space. You think they can give me that space?
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. Teresa, what's your message? Thank you, Archbishop.
I guess as a First Nations person from Australia and Indigenous, it would have been, I don't think, from my observation with yesterday for the opening of the conference and throughout today, Indigenous people from all around the world, to me personally, I feel like we don't have a voice. And in that regard, being the United Nations, they should have understand all nations from around the world, especially Indigenous people from all around the world, our Mother Earth. We have lived on this earth for many, many thousands of years. We understand our culture. We understand the ocean. It's our mother, just like Mother Earth. Narawan or Garagarang, which means ocean in my language. So it should have been fully represented and actually to acknowledge our stories of the ocean, our connection with the ocean, bridging those with our spirituality and of thousands of years of knowledge. Just like the ocean is ancient, as well as our ancestors that are in the ocean. Sorry, I get a little bit emotional. Because these all, like Archbishop, or I'll say my brother, like what my brother said, there's so many different things on how we're connected with our faith and our spirituality. And I said earlier, when we bring our babies home, to put them back into our beautiful ocean, our mother, is just like a baptism. We did things that are similar, when we look at our Indigenous spirituality, where I come from, with our initiation sacraments. It's those natural elements that really stand out, like water, fire, wind. They all come together in bringing them to a better understanding on where we are and where we stand with the ocean at this time, remembering the knowledge that have been passed down in the past and the present and the emerging. That is what, for Indigenous Australians and probably all Indigenous around the world, is our dreaming. It's not dream time, because when it says dream time, it's only in the past. It's dreaming, it's the past, the present, and emerging. And that's what's important for, I think, at this conference, to really represent Indigenous people. As an Indigenous person, I actually reflected yesterday and thought, I would have thought by now, on a very political stage, but on so many levels, with the United Nations Conference on the Ocean, is to have that strong representation from Indigenous cultures all around the world, like they do when they do opening of Olympics, and they have all the Indigenous cultures. Why wasn't this thought of? That we have a powerful voice, a powerful story to actually bring forward, because we not only hold the knowledge, but we understand how it links what my brother said with the heart. The heart is the most important thing of all. And so I would like to witness a bit more about our spirituality brought into this, and also understand Indigenous cultures, that we have a strong voice and that we're not forgotten. Because remember, we are the ancient ones of Mother Earth that walk on this earth, besides our ancestors that are in the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Pedro.
I don't know what the numbers are for the people who are present. And you can look at the flow of people back and forth and what's on the screen. And I've been doing this since 1992, before the COP even began in Rio in 1992. So I wear thin on these meetings. Because there is a great deal of talk. The talk, in many cases, is genuine, and it does need to be acknowledged. There are some good bilateral arrangements that are beginning to work and are beginning to show a difference. Yeah, so I would just mention, for example, the Iberian collaboration between Spain and Portugal over the return of the sardine fishing, and a larger, broader effort for the Mediterranean. There are efforts, and they're good. They're focused. And a number of these countries have particular bilateral arrangements with some of the small islands, Caribbean or Pacific. And this again is good. It is not enough. And we have to shake up to that. The carbon figures are going up. And if all we're going to do is turn the air conditioner up, we're part of the problem. We're not part of the solution. Yeah. So there is a shake-up. The carbon figures are not coming down. And nothing in COP 20, what was the last one? 26, given how they pulled the carpet out from under it, because there is so much non-transparent corporate involvement in many of these meetings, that COP26 is not going to turn the corner on the carbon countdown, by 2030, because they've pulled it out. That's the date sort of we will start. So we need a shake-up. It is valuable, but it's also dangerous where the academe and the business come together. If the third party, which is the primary party, is not present, and it's not always in the nation state, because the nation state is often compromised, for the sake of being part of global economic recovery. You have to tax this, you have to do that, to get some money from the World Bank or wherever to keep things going. Third party are the people. And it's not because they're number three, but they need to be in this. And our process of negotiation has to develop. It's very sad, for example, in this wonderful forum, that there is no fora there for the youth. The youth are picking up this problem already. They should be there, able to practice their skills and their integrity, because at this stage they have integrity. They haven't been bought off. Sorry. Yeah, we need integrity at these meetings, and 2-3 sets of people that give us integrity are the youth, because they call us up if we're parents. Yeah, and mommy, don't throw the rubbish there. Put it here. They're the best change agents. Yeah, we need these stories from the heart. And Indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples, all people who live as community have a faith. Faith is my relationship with my neighbor. In a village, no one goes hungry if it's a community, unless everyone suffers that hunger. This is why the community's economy, household, it's a shared household, yeah, is so sustainable. The fridge is the other person's table. If you know that there's someone who doesn't have food, you slip it out unnoticed and you slip it into the other household by various means, so that older people or so many children in a family, whatever it is, have food, because there is this relationship. Yeah. These galang, as we call them, on my wrist, are relationships with the tribal council where I come from, on how we seek to stay together. Yeah. And surely, if a community is in this state, this community prays. It doesn't pray to a cash machine, it prays to a creator. Yeah, that which gives life. Yeah, and this has to be listened to. Maybe in a Western world we call this ethics. We need a new ethics. And that's basically starting with the truth. Don't just greenwash. Give us the real figures and the real commitments. Yeah. Give us integrity, transparency. You know, if we only knew the shenanigans going on in the business world, yeah, behind this, we really need these changes in global dialogues and a transparency as to where the corporate world is working genuinely, where the scientific world is not silenced, and where the people's needs are met. Because it is absurd, the economic wealth that comes out of the Pacific and the condition and vulnerability today. So the action called for is now. This should tie in with COP27. Loss and damages aren't even 10% of what is needed. What's on the figures on the books are way short of the disasters we are building. You don't notice it, but what you're suffering with the slight temperature changes here is an expansion of the La Nina phenomena. Don't blame it on a southern oscillation. It is the exasperation of climate change. And our climate systems will change. The biggest one is the Pacific Ocean. There's some information on it on the back there. But we really have to connect in. We have to make a commitment with our heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Perhaps one dream might be to never have another UN conference again. Or if we have one, that it be in a Talanoa style. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your tala, for your sharing. Thank you all for listening. Now we would like to invite you to have your tala moment. Is there anyone here that would like to share something about your own experience, about your own desire for care for the ocean, or something directed to any of our dialogue partners? If you would, please come and have a seat and we'll give you the microphone. Would anyone like to come up and take the chair? Don't be shy. We're all ocean people. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, come on up.
What's your experiences here?
I know somebody who's been surfing all day. Okay. That's a lot to, what's been shared is a lot to hold in our hearts. And sometimes we just need a little time to let it sit before we can speak to it. Then I'd like to invite our second dialogue partners group. But before you leave, thank you, Brother Peter. Thank you, Sister Teresa. Thank you, Brother Pedro. So if we can invite Tita and Robin, Sister Robin, and Tevita, can you please come and take your seats? Welcome to the circle. Thank you. Let me introduce you to Sister Robin Reynolds of Australia, Our Lady of the Sacred Heart Sisters. Thank you for being here. We have Brother Tevita Naikasawalu of Fiji, a Columban First Nations person of Fiji. Tita, and I only know you by Tita. Tita Kara. Thank you, Tita. Here representing Caritas Tonga, Oceania, and First Nations of Tonga. So thank you all for being here. We're very happy to have another round of Talanoa with you. And so we'll follow a similar process, same process, different questions. I don't want to get any more red cards. So the first question I invite you to reflect on is Pope Francis talks about hearing the cry of the earth and the cry of people. Can you speak a little bit to what is the ocean crying out? How are we hearing the ocean cry and its inhabitants? And also something of the song of the ocean, the beauty of the ocean and its inhabitants. What is it that we need to put our ear to and open our hearts to? May I invite you, Tita, to begin? Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And I would like to acknowledge the President of God in our midst. Also to acknowledge the funding from Caritas Oceania and Caritas International to get me to Lisbon. Like Teresa, I'm getting a little bit emotional. This is something that is very dear to my heart. The story of the ocean. I lived so close to the ocean, I could hear it. It's the last thing I actually hear, and the first sound in the morning. I'm a fourth generation of people who fish from the sea. So talking about it, to me, the sea is a person. The ocean is a person to me. It laugh, it juggle, it whistle. So when you go around the beach, close to the blowholes and the reef, it blow whistles and juggles when the waves action come through it. You can see baby waves frolicking at the shores like little kids playing tussle. When it's roaring at night, it's like parents calling kids home. Where are you? Come home. It's sleep time. You go in the morning and you can stand there and you can feel the spray of the ocean caressing your face. And you could literally taste the salt, the tip of your tongue. It sings. I have been working on MBAs, that is a special management areas across a lot of small islands in Tonga. And I met people who are actually taking tourists to whale watch. I can hear the whales singing. And because so many tourists come, sometimes the mother is separated from its calf. And you can literally hear in the tracking devices the wailing of the mother searching for its child. They go around and pack. It's the dad, the mom, and the calf. And right now, before I left, just like Teresa, we have already sighted the hump whales in Tonga, and they travel around from the most eastern side, from Vava'u to Hapai to Ewa and to Tonga. Tonga tapu anyway, because we have flat coral islands and we have volcanic islands. So they started from where the volcanic islands are and end up in the coral islands, where the capital is and where I'm from, because they say because it's basically plateau, the sea there is warmer. And I asked someone before the march whether you bring your t-shirt, and he said to me, "Oh, Tita, I didn't bring a ocean colored t-shirt. It's pretty blue dark." And I said, "Well, in the ocean, closer to the shore, it's pretty green, crystal green. And when you go out really to the deep, it's really dark. So it has timber with its coloring. So these are the language of the sea, and it talked to us. So we go to the ocean every week to swim, where my kids, flirt around and play splashing, finding a little pool. When I went to university, they asked me, "Are you able to swim?" And I said, "No." I said, "But you're from the ocean." "Well, we don't swim in the sea. We find a bottle and we get in there and play there for 2 hours, and we go home and say we went swimming." So these are the experience that we have, and these are the language that we learn about the sea. We know when it's moody, close to the cyclone season, you can hear the sea rolling, and it has been happening. We've had all the data. You have all the stories that they're more frequency and more intense now, as if the ocean is like vengeance for all the abuse, all the exploitation that we have actually given to her over the years. So sometimes I wonder whether it's a coincidence that the world is made up of 70%. And our human body is also make up, the liquid in our body is also make up of 70%. So is that a coincidence? I think God definitely designed us to know that that's the system. You hurt your foot, you hurt your hand, one of your eyes. Of course, it will hurt. Your whole system will not work as perfectly. So if we're abusing the ocean, it doesn't matter whether it happened here in Portugal or happened in Oceania. Eventually, it will hurt the whole system. So that's the language I understand. That's the language I wish everyone will understand. We are actually putting a loaded gun straight into our own head. The sad thing is, it won't only stop in our head, it will pass through ours to our children and our grandchildren. So I think that's the language I want everyone to remember after today.
Thank you, Tita. Tavita, what would you like to share?
Bulabinak. Thank you for that. Sister Tita has really put up a very dramatic picture and scene of the ocean. For me, the ocean is the very picture that brings a mom breastfeeding a baby. Because for me, the ocean is like air. It's everywhere I go, there is the ocean, because my tiny island is surrounded completely by the ocean. I climb up the hill from this side, I reach the ocean. I come up from that side, I reach the ocean. This river, I reach the ocean. I look this side, it is the ocean. I look this side, it is the ocean. Whatever we need is from the ocean. I am a person from the ocean. My first intimate relationship with the ocean is my umbilical cord. When I was born, my umbilical cord was placed on a reef in the ocean to remind me and connect me. That's what my mom told me when I grew a little bit young. Remember, always, ocean is your mom. That is where your umbilical cord is. And that is a very important reminder to me, because that's significant to them, because that's their whole life, transport, their whole skills, knowledge, way of play, the way they tell the stories. It's always related, the way they put their meke, it's a dance. It's always related to how the ocean moves. It has rhythms, it has tempers, like she said. It has its feelings. You can feel the ocean. And if you listen to the ocean, you can hear this like silent spirit silently speaking to you. It can soothe you. It can really speak to you if we learn to listen. And that's why I said it's like a mom. No matter how angry this baby is, or when it's hungry, it'll hold her baby in her arms, and she'll stand up all that night nourishing the baby. And that's how the ocean has been through all this time. He's been holding us all throughout. The amount of abuse that we have done to her, we have bombed her, we have tested nuclear wars, we have gone wars with it, we have polluted it, we have done tremendous hurt on her. Yet she still holds us, because without the ocean, there is no earth, there's no air, there's no oxygen, there's none of any of this. So that is why, that is how I regard her. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavita. Listening to you makes me recall Our Lady of the Sea, Stella Maris. Thank you. Sister Robin, what would you like to share?
Thank you, Amy. First, I'd like to acknowledge the Indigenous people of Portugal. In Australia, we, at any important gathering, we're coming to do that more and more often. So I want to do that first. Many years of my life as a religious sister has been lived in the desert, Central Australian desert, very far from the ocean. I don't have your experience. But in another sense, because as you say, my body is 70%. My earth family, my ocean family, we are 70, 80% water. So I am ocean. I'm not just related to it, I am. So in that sense, but I am very much a desert person too. But Saint Exupéry, the author of The Little Prince, he said, what makes the desert beautiful is that somewhere deep inside there is a spring. So I like to remember that. But coming back, Amy, to your question, what is the song? I can hear two songs. One is from the ocean. One is a lament, a cry. It's like we remember, I can't breathe. I can hear the ocean calling out that. I can't breathe. It's happening in Australia's the coral reef or some of our rivers. You know, the first verse of the Bible, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth, and it was void and empty. That's like some of our rivers in Australia and our ocean waters, like a desert. But the second verse said, the Spirit was breathing over the waters. So I just like to remember that and think that in cooperation with the Divine Spirit breathing over the waters, that's our task, our privilege, our opportunity, not only in a contemplative way to breathe over the waters, but in a practical, daily way to find ways with our families, our communities, our churches, to bring new life to our oceans. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Sister Robin. Excuse me. Thank you, Sister Robin. I love that. I am ocean. We are ocean. Thank you. Let's turn now to that same question that I asked our first group of dialogue partners. And that is, imagine yourself on the last day of the conference at the podium, speaking to the entire world gathered at the arena. What is the message that you would like to send? And maybe I'll invite you, Tita. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I think a little of what I wanted to say would have been said by Pedro. Telling that there's a corporate world, there's a business world, and there's a people world. It involved that triangulation. It can't. The first thing I noticed when I came in, it's how many doors were closed to me. They just look at your little card and pointed at that direction. And even today when I went in, oh, sorry, you're not allowed to go here. That's fine. We know that there are certain protocols that must be observed. But so when our voices is going to be heard, I have listened to all the memberships when it was read out, Asia and Pacific. I was wondering whether Australia could come up or New Zealand could come up. There's a domination in just the larger, most developed countries. There's no representative from Oceania in there. So when is our voice going to be heard, and how do we filter our voice into forum like this? It's United Nations, as Teresa said, yet that's like, it's just a development kind of meeting, developed world kind of meeting. We have a duty of care. I am taunted at time and even stunned to feel that the economy has driven so much of our development that we greenwash or blue wash a lot of what we do to justify it. Even some of the financing, some developed countries even buy the quota from the less developed in order for them to pollute more because they have exhausted their quota of emission. So they start buying the little islands like ours in Oceania in order for them to keep on polluting. So that's not me. That my state and my leaders are actually allowing this. Of course, the money is needed, but we are eventually burning down the house that we're actually building. We have actually plea and beg, and I joined so many organizations to get that voice through. Joined so many webinars as long as my voice could be heard, pleading to companies and organizations and multinational that are actually dumping rubbish that have been ending up in the Pacific. Someone did mention that one floating heap is bigger than France itself, and it's floating out toward the Pacific. Some of our small islands have found rubbish that had the name of some of the European country, whether that's by ship or it has been floated. But it indicates the connectiveness that we have between your part of the world and our part. That sea will carry whatever waste and pollution we put into it all around the world, and it will end up in my foreshore. So they could do the whole business corporate money-making scheme, but my plea is be mindful, because one day it might be your house that will get burned down. So the policy that you decide, the strategy that you put in place, and the decision that you made must be inclusive. It shouldn't be just for the benefit of the business or your profit level or your share price. It must be for all humanity. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Tita. Sister Robin, may I invite you next, please?
Thank you, Amy. So, what I want to demand, the first day we saw 8 chairs up on that stage, that very wonderful formal opening with the dignitaries and the United Nations Secretary General. And there was a chair down the end that was empty for a large part of the time. But aside from that, and that's the whole point of it, those 7 chairs were all male, our brothers. Not only, as we all recognize and long for, a young person, an Indigenous person, but what about half of the humanity? So a woman did emerge like an afterthought at the end. I attended a wonderful side event this morning, actually, emerging women. I can't remember the full title, but even that, there were 2 or 3 wonderful women, but also I would have expected the majority, even all, may have been women. But yes, so that was very bad, and it shouldn't happen next time. Another one will be the youth. It's not just kind of encouraging, acknowledging, but it's learning from our youth, wonderful leaders amongst many of our youth. We need them. Where are they? So women and youth. The other one I would like to say very strongly is that in our institutions, our Catholic universities, our colleges, our schools, our kindergartens, environmental studies eco-spirituality, eco-theology. This is not to be an option. Back in Ad Gentes, Vatican Council times, many of you might not remember those times, but there was, in that Ad Gentes missionary document, a key statement says, the church is missionary by her very nature. Well, we are ecological. Our theology, our Christian education and formation must not just be an option or an elective to do creation spirituality, to be a fully alive adult Christian person, follower of Jesus. This understanding of who we are, the African proverb, I am because we are. It's not an option, it's integral to our education and the living and understanding of our faith, let alone how we educate one another and our youth. I'm sorry if that's not too clear, but to me, it's too often just on the outside or as a possibility this, oh yes, or a conference like this. No, it's got to be ongoing, integrated, constant.
Thank you so much, Sister Robin. And when you started, you said, I demand. And we don't usually use that strong language in the church. We don't often demand things. But I think your message, and I believe, Teresa, you were saying it, the power of our voice. We've been given a voice. I love that invitation to take the seat at the table. Thank you. Thank you. Tivita, would you please share with us, what is your message on the closing day of the conference? What's your message to the leaders of the world and all people?
Thank you, Amy. I have, for me, being here in person, that's a message. Because to come here, it cost my life's saving to arrive here. But I have to get to, all the financial available because I have a point to prove. It matters to be here. So because before I came in my tradition, we and Archbishop, and we do what we call for a blessing before we leave. I'm going to acknowledge, and I ask for I did it to my parents. So to ask them, I'm going to go to represent, and it was a great honor for them. And they say, you are going not only for our land, your people, your ancestors, those who have fought, those who have lived, those who have died, and those who have, in the name of faith, in the name of the development, you carry a lot, even though nobody might have heard your voice, but you going there. And that's why it matters to be here. It is important for us to stand up and take the God-given chances and the opportunities that we are given, because it matters to other voiceless people back at home, to take up their voices. And I believe to our leaders in the world, my message is about simplicity. We do not need to grow bigger, better, to make the world a better place. We need to become more humble, like the original people. You don't need much to gain more. You have to give more to gain much. And that's my message. So that even if we can share the wealth that we already have, I think we can have more other countries who have less. We don't need to take more. We need to share more because we already have less. And that's my message. We need to live simple, good, and that's we have to try to be happy, and also we have to carry on the honor of those who have gone before us. It does matter to continue telling this story, and that's why it's extremely important to me. It's not easy to cry on such a platform. Thank you. And with that, if it's okay, I would like to sing that song for the lament of the Oceania people. Archbishop actually recommended this idea. This song is from the, it's an adaptation from one of the groups in Fiji called the Root Strata. They used to sing about our social justice messages. This happened during the political upheaval in Fiji during 1987. So I would like to do that as a lament song for.
It would be an honor. Thank you, Tavita.
Hear me crying in the ocean. I need your help. Come help me now. There's so much pain. Pollution, mining, and climate change. And all we need is a chance to live and just be free. For we are the victims of this greed and war. We do not want our children to suffer more. In the world where only a few would rule. No equal opportunity for the majority. Hear us now. Hear us now. Hear us now. Hear us now. Rising seas, drowning lands, we are refugees. Identity and dignity washed away. Though we cry, but we defend our ocean. It's our motherland, it's all we have. Stop hurting her. For we are the victims of this greed and war. We do not want our children to suffer more. In the world where only a few would rule. No equal opportunity for the majority. Hear us now. Hear us now. Hear us now. Hear us now. Oceania people, raise our voices in unity. Stop destruction of the ocean. Seas our home. Come on, everybody, sing it. For we are the victims of this greed and war. We do not want our children to suffer more. In a world where only a few would rule. No equal opportunity for the majority. Hear us now. Hear us now. Hear us now. Hear us now. Hear me crying in the ocean.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tita. Thank you, Sister Robin. Thank you, Tavita. It's been wonderful to have your share, for your sharing, your tala. Thank you for your listening. We have people online too, our wonderful community around the world. I don't know if we're able to receive questions or comments or any activity. I'm not sure if that's in place. Can someone tell me if that's possible? Maybe not. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to offer their own words of what you've heard? Yes, please. Would you like to come up to the chair? No?
I'm a Loreto sister from the United Kingdom, and I've been very, very impressed with what I've heard, particularly this evening. But the words that have stayed with me most from yesterday were the words ocean literacy, and today being reminded that there were no young people around. And I'm a teacher, and I'd like to know, when I go back to the UK, what can I take with me to the students whom I meet to help them to understand better the whole issue of the problems and the delights and the magic of the oceans, of which I was totally ignorant until the last 2 days.
Thank you. Who would like to speak to Sister's question?
I would like to start. Unfortunately, I could not bring some of the books I actually brought with me. I carried around on Sunday, and I forgot it today. But I got some documents with me that I could share. It won't be the totality of it. We are accessible by Facebook and Google. So that's the tools and mechanism that people are actually using nowadays. So we were trying to upgrade and be visible to the world. I know how we feel because we grew up, and I could understand landlocked people who would not have that privilege. But anything, we're contactable. We have our contacts, and if there is any way we can actually help with resources so people could actually understand a lot more about the Oceania, I'm sure we can all do that. Thank you. But I'll pass on the documents for whoever you would be accessible to actually pass it on. You?
We will. We'll
Thank
make
you.
it available. Thank you.
Thank you for your genuine question. I really respect that you want to return for your young people. So there are the opportunities there you've just heard, but don't forget, even before you give them something, listen. You might be surprised. Listen first for what they might tell you. Yeah.
Well, I have only one suggestion. This tool of storytelling is the most powerful. You tell your story, what you've heard, what you feel. You never know what it can get because it's from you. That's one of the best book you can do, is to share your story personally related to. And that's an art too.
Am I allowed to have one more little quick one? One other thing, I think Laudate Si is absolutely fantastic. It's a long document, but depending on the age, of course, but maybe there's a chance there.
Lovely, thank you. Anyone else? Would you like to share something from your heart? Your own experience? Please, Teresa. Maybe you could come up, Teresa.
No questions, but perhaps some of the comments you could.
I think when anything that comes from the heart, even a story, you know it's the truth. Because my grandmother used to always say, anything from the heart doesn't know how to lie. It only knows how to love and nurture and tell the truth. So our stories that come from the heart, they are very meaningful. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Let me share with you just a few comments that we're getting from our online participants. We should not apologize for getting emotional. We need to get emotional. God bless you, Tita, and all. From Father Rass, who we mentioned earlier, Father Rass, he says, it's very early in the morning, late at night. He says, this is a moving testimony, Malo Tita, a fully alive human person. Good message, sister. We need to become, we need to become more humble. We need to share more. Thank you, Tavita. This has been so encouraging. Thank you for sharing online. I hope you had plenty of people in person as well. We certainly have. We have a full room. Thank you all for coming. Again, Father Rass says, the tears of the ocean lamenting what we've done to her. So much pain just to be free. Vinaka Tevita, Teresa, Robin, Pedro, Archbishop, Tita, and Amy. We do not want our children to suffer more. Hear us now. Help me. Thank you. And finally, it has to be said in the Talanoa, it just needs to reach the right ears. We keep trying and striving. So thank you all for being online, for joining us. It's probably very late where you are, or perhaps very early. So we're very privileged that you've chosen to spend part of your day with us. Thank you, Sister Tita, Brother Tavita, Sister Robin. Thank you very much for your sharing. Please stay seated, and I'd like to invite our previous group to come forward. Archbishop, please. Teresa. Thank you. Pedro, please. If we could all kind of make room here. Sorry, camera. Oh, okay. Before we close, our before we close our Talanoa, I wanted to extend a few more thank yous that didn't make it into the first round of thank yous. I also want to thank Musamba, who is here with Caritas Internationalis. It's been a wonderful partner in our planning and preparing for this delegation. Thank you, Musamba and Caritas Internationalis. We also have other friends and guests. We have our delegation from the Holy See, Antonio, and guest Susan. Susan, thank you so much for being here. And we have Jan from Oceans Dialogue. Where are you, Jan, back there? Thank you for coming. And Klaus. There's Klaus back there. Thank you from Azerior. This is on, and who else? Who am I missing? Sorry? Oh, yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you to, if I knew each of your names, I would say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you so very much for being here, for spending part of your day, for listening to the stories. I hope you take them home with you in your heart, like little packages wrapped up tight that you can go back to over and over again. I have two very special thank yous as well. Very special thank you to Jose, and a very special thank you to Pedro. You have been our hands and hearts and feet on the ground for many, many months, and it's just been extraordinary, all that you've done. George, thank you also for your tremendous collaboration and preparing for us. Your hospitality and all the people of Portugal has been so warm and so touching. We truly are bound together forever. I shared a little story with Anna, Jose's wife, when we had a little time to ourselves. My ocean story is on the Atlantic Ocean, on the coast of New Jersey. I spent many, many years, long hours, days, months by the sea, from sunrise to sundown. And as a little girl, I remember looking out onto the horizon, feeling God beckoning me, calling me out into the horizon, into the deep. And I remember asking myself, what is out there? Who is out there? And I've come to find out that Anna was on the same Atlantic shore on the other side, with the same longing gaze out into the ocean. And I'm certain that more than one time we were staring at each other. We all have been, we are truly connected by the ocean, by the water that lives within us, around us, that we are blessed by, that we are cleansed and healed by. Let us be a source of love and healing and connection, just as the ocean teaches us. And so I'd like to invite each of our Talanoa participants, if you can just say a word or a phrase, something that, just a final word or blessing that we can take with us as we go out into the night. May I offer the mic to you, sister?
I'm thinking of the Indonesian word cukup. It means enough. And the other one is just silence.
I like the word Moana. If you don't know what Moana is, please Google the movie. And it's a true reflection of the Pacific culture. Moana represent us, the me, the Oceania, and it should be yours too. The depiction of the stories, the teller of the characters in there could be your character as well. And the ocean, how it become a god and how we abuse and it lost and being found again. So you could be the Tangaroa, you could be the Maui of that story. So I want us that despite whatever we're actually talking about and how hopeless it might be now, I want to offer that hope that we can merge the past and the current to create a better future. So I want you to take away with you that word Moana. Thank you.
For me, the word is hope, because coming here, seeing a lot of people, a lot of new faces. If we are all here, it means it does matter. So that gives me hope that it is something important that we are doing together.
I would ask all of us, young and old, to trust. It is the only way we can see beyond the disasters we have. It's trust. Trust in one another. Trust in God. And we will find the sustainable world where we have a greater responsibility.
I would just like to, in my language, say Dijara Guinia, Narawan, Gargarang, Dulama. And what I just said is thank you all for being here today, and that our ocean is also what we called magic. It's like it's reaching out to us and pulling us in. And it says that the ocean is very much Dulama magic, and tells us how it wants to be. And if it wants to take you, it will. And in time, if we continue doing the wrong thing, it will eventually take us. So, Jajara Gurunia, thank you.
Moana is the Polynesian name for the ocean. Fiji is a mixture of Polynesian and Melanesian. So Tevita is more Polynesian, is more fair and like Tita. Then the Melanesian is very dark skinned. I'm mixed with everything. Asian, Polynesian, and my mother is native Fijian, my dad is Chinese. But the name for ocean for us in Fiji is Wai Tui. Wai is water, Tui is chief. So it's like giving status to the Wai, to the ocean. So the ocean is like Tui, like a king, like a god. One of our prophets for the ocean in Oceania is a retired Anglican bishop, is Tongan, Archbishop Winston Halapua. So he wrote a small book called the ocean as the embrace of God. So he's one of the first ones that have developed this Oceania theology. That means using ocean as a language for God. So theology is really language for God. You know, theo is God and study of God. So, the Bible is full of languages for God, but mostly from the desert because of the Israelite people. They only can talk about God in terms of the desert or the tree that grows in the desert, but the roots are going into the river. So that tree does not die, because any tree that lives in the desert dies. So we, people from the Waitui and the ocean, our language for God has to be, that's the only, because it's our backyard. That's why where Tevita comes from, his God is the sea god. I don't want to call that his thing, otherwise he will give me one penalty. So the sea god. And there are instances when one of the kings died, who was the former president of Fiji. When they took him back to his island, the sea gods escorted. This was told in the radio. So there is a strong, connection between. For us, Moana and the sea god Tangaroa, our language for God, our theology, we can only talk about God in terms of the ocean, and so this is a good way to round this off, because we have to find, that for us Oceania, river, Waitui, Moana, is our language for God, and thank you for listening to us as we express or share our language for God, and this is God in creation. We have to be able to bring God into this conversation. Of course, you people, Lisbon is right beside the ocean, So don't just see the yacht and all that. You see the ocean, you see God. And to praise God for the ocean. Thank you very much.
Hail, Queen of Heaven, the ocean stars, light of the world,
seal below. Thrown arms, life's search, we claim again. Save us from peril and from wound. Mother of Christ, Star of the sea, pray for the wanderers, pray for me. O gentle days, and spotless maid, from sin's torment God kept thee free. Plead with thy Son, for he has paid the price of our iniquity. Virgin most pure, Star of the sea, pray for the sinners, pray for me. And woe to him who reigns above, and guarded one in persons three. The sorrows of life are great and love, how much we pray on bended knee. Mother of Christ, Star of the sea, pray for the children, pray for me. Thank you.